but it will get heavier, and there's a real concern for flooding here. In the west, we may have some heavier rain as well from Tropical Storm Isis. Look at this, on the due north path, 50-mile-per-hour winds. The biggest concern for us here, of course, in the U.S. is the threat of heavier rain, which isn't here yet, but may be in the next 24 hours, and we'll keep you up to date on that. We'll check your forecast for the weekend as well in a minute. Mike?
Well, you're enjoying a very pleasant afternoon into the northeast, but showers and thunderstorms could disrupt parts of the Midwest, and very hot weather will be the concern again in the plains and into Texas. Looking at the national map, it is pretty quiet except for the southeast and portions of the southwest. A nice quiet weather day on this Thursday as folks get ready for the unofficial end of summer, the Labor Day holiday weekend, and we're going to see some nice quiet weather around much of the country. But before that happens, we're seeing some warm temperatures into the west, and they will continue through next week. So it was 112 in Redding in Northern California yesterday. Billings, Montana at 99, Klamath Falls, Oregon at 99, into the upper 90s from much of the Intermountain West and Northwest, and even Casper, Wyoming at 93. We're going to see warmer temperatures into the Northwest and West again. And the area of concern today is into Texas. We do have the area in red is the danger zone around just south of Dallas, Fort Worth, towards Waco and down towards Austin. Be careful if you have to be outside today. It's going to be another hot summer day there, and still rather warm up into the plains, into Montana and into the plains, an area of extreme caution for today. Temperatures in the northeast are nice and pleasant. 71 in Boston right now, 70 at Central Park in New York City, and downtown Philadelphia 76, and at the mall in Washington 79, Elmira at 74. Into the Midwest, some cool temperatures here. We're at 66 in Alpena, northern Michigan, Marquette in the UP at 60, International Falls at 63. One half of the Twins cities, Minneapolis at 70. We're at 83 in St. Louis, and KCMO at 81 right now. Into the southeast, some clouds and showers and cooler temperatures into the Carolinas. 74 at Charleston. That's really cool for this time of the year. In Raleigh at 77. Atlanta cloudy and 69, while over in Birmingham it's 81. And into the southwest, Dallas at 96, Oklahoma City 94. And into the west, 92 in Phoenix and 83 in Las Vegas. Heat indices are not a problem as of yet, but we're going to see some warm temperatures in the portions of the west too on this Thursday, and just more of the same over the next week or so. Not much of a change, so very warm temperatures continuing into Southern California, into Arizona, and pushing up into the Intermountain West and the portions of Montana, thanks to that strong ridge of high pressure. Now with a look at the forecast for the rest of the day and into your holiday weekend, here's Jill.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And if it weren't for what's going on in the tropics, we'd have nothing at all to talk about except the heat. Here it is, Tropical Storm Earl promising to come across South Carolina and up into North Carolina. Tropical Storm Isis bringing that moisture up into Arizona, maybe even into Southern California, which could mean some heavier rain. Pretty much everywhere else it is quiet, even with the front coming into the Pacific Northwest and this front draped across the Ohio Valley. We don't have a lot of action. All the moisture is really tied up in our two tropical storms, which could bring still a lot of rain into Friday. There's still that slight possibility that this area of low pressure will head off the coast and would stand the chance of redeveloping, but at this point we think that Tropical Storm Earl is in the wind down stage. The biggest threat, some severe weather for a few more hours, and then the rain that may continue for more than 24 hours. 3 or more inches possible, which might not be such a terrible thing in Georgia, where it's been dry, even South Carolina, but once we get the heart of that heavy rain up into North Carolina, we could certainly have some problems. It was only a week ago that we had as much as a foot of rain from Hurricane Bonnie, so another 3 or 4 inches is not welcome in North Carolina and could cause flooding. Southwest, no heavy rain yet, but we'll keep an eye out for that. And in between, there it is, the extreme heat. We're looking at 100-degree temperatures again. Don't forget the humidity, which will make it feel warmer than that. And overnight lows, of course, are typically warm as well, with a few exceptions. In the mountains of the west, we're looking at overnight lows in the 30s, so starting to feel a little bit like fall in a few spots.
So very warm, and either we had rain in portions of the southwest or into the southeast. Well, Earl is now a tropical storm, but still packing enough power to wet roads.
And that may mean it may affect your travel plans. Stay tuned. Travel-Wise is next.
Put a little sunbeam in your life. Lots of peanut butter would be nice. Put it round some ham and cheese.
Well, good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us here at the Weather Channel for Storm Watch. Coming up shortly, I'll talk a little bit about the potential for strong thunderstorms around the country. Right now, though, John Hope is going to give us the latest on Isis and Earl.
Well, thanks, Rich, and good afternoon, everybody. Earl no longer is a hurricane. It was downgraded by the Hurricane Center to a tropical storm this morning. And then after that, they wrote their final advisory on it. And that means that the National Hurricane Center is not going to be giving us any further advisories on this unless it should move out over the water enough so it has to be reclassified as a tropical system, or the winds along the coast get strong enough. Now, there are some winds out there that are a little bit disconcerting. We have a buoy right off to Brunswick, Georgia, reporting sustained tropical storm force winds. And we have had gusts well in excess of tropical storm force in places such as Savannah and Charleston this morning, but that has died down a little bit. It doesn't appear to us as if the center is going to move back out of the water, not right away. It might by tomorrow, but by that time it'll be a whole lot farther north. It is moving just about the very best that we can determine the center towards the southeast. And we'd like to point out to you folks down here on the Florida Gulf Coast that everything is cleared off very nicely. After the hurricane came ashore last night, the winds have diminished, the sun is out. Looks like a beautiful weekend is in the offing down there in that part of the world. But nevertheless, as this moves up along the coast, these heavy showers and thunderstorms are going to continue, and especially here, say, from north of Charleston, some of those still very heavy. And as is very often the case when we have a landfalling tropical storm or hurricane, we have to concern ourselves some with the possibility of tornadoes, and this is no exception today. And you see where the tornado watch is, encompassing portions of North Carolina, a whole lot of South Carolina, and a small portion of the eastern part of Georgia. Looking at the radar now, we can see very heavy rain extending across North Carolina or across portions of South Carolina into about Macon, Georgia. Notice Atlanta, Georgia there. Most of the suburban area didn't get any rain at all. Extremely heavy rains in Macon, 4 or 5 inches or more rain there. That rain has gone to light now, and it's going to end, say, within about the next hour or so. All this is moving, the center is moving toward the northeast at about 20 miles per hour. These are some of the gusts that have been reported just in the last hour. We don't have any quite as strong as we did have, but there is a 47 knotter, or 47 miles an hour. That's at Savannah, Georgia. And then we have this buoy off Brunswick, as I indicated, showing sustained winds of over about 40 miles an hour. Okay, we still have a hurricane out here. This is Danielle, still 75-mile-an-hour winds, and it's racing off toward the northeast now pretty fast, about 28 miles an hour. And we have indications from our satellite imagery that we have winds in excess of 80 miles an hour along the southern periphery. A data buoy up off Nova Scotia reported waves this morning up to 55 feet, and that's still very well-developed hurricane, but racing away from the United States. Now, we continue to watch in the Caribbean a tropical wave with quite a bit of interest, but no sign of organization so far today. However, we believe that when this gets over in the western Caribbean Sea in another day or two, it might have a better chance to develop, so we need to watch that. That's really about the only thing we have that we're watching very much at all now on the Atlantic side. The tropical wave coming into the islands there, not much with that at all. And then way out in the Atlantic, we have a very active tropical wave right off the coast of Africa. It's holding together very well. We're going to be watching that as time goes by. And the National Hurricane Center has also written its final advisory on Isis. That's moved inland in Mexico, where very heavy rain still in the mountains, but that's winding down. And it looks as if the moisture that's being brought up into the United States is not going to be too great. We can see on our satellite picture here, perhaps, that it's not very much anymore, and it's all moved inland and moving towards north. Well, let's go back to the U.S. here briefly for Rich and see what he has to tell us about severe weather. Rich?
All right, thank you, John. As we look out across the country, once again, our two systems there, two tropical storms, and with the moisture associated with them, the possibility of severe weather, of course, the southwest as well as the southeast. Earlier today, a few miles northeast of Savannah, Georgia, 5 were injured from a tornado touchdown. Other tornado warnings out earlier. Let me show you the latest radar, the close-up radar of South and North Carolina. Still watching this line heading up toward Myrtle Beach. Also some big storms around Wilmington. If you see threatening weather, make sure you take cover immediately. Much more about this in your forecast next.
Tropical Storm Earl lands in parts of the Carolinas and Georgia. When will the skies begin to clear? Stay with us for the latest update, plus your weather just ahead on Weather Center.
Introducing the all-new 1999 Grand Am. Its solid form design provides a stronger body structure so you can get down to some exciting business with hardly a squeak.
Solid.
Excitement, well built. The all-new Grand Am by Pontiac.
Every day more people are choosing Lowe's, and here's why.
There's a complete hardware store inside of every Lowe's. We have more hardware than anyone.
Over 8,000.
Well, two tropical storms are grabbing attention in the southern tier states this afternoon. Hello and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Mike Motley, and Weather Center is sponsored by GM Trucks.
And I'm Jill Brown. We're worried a little bit about heavy rain from ISIS in parts of the southwest and also parts of the southeast. We're a little concerned about flooding as you're getting drenched from heavy rain from Tropical Storm Earl. Repair is underway this afternoon in Port St. Joe, Florida, of damage caused by Earl. The area got up to a foot of rain between yesterday and this morning and endured damaging winds and high surf as well. The stormy weather is over now. Port St. Joe is partly cloudy with diminishing winds. Today at Destin Beach, Florida, the surfers are back in the water. The people are back walking the beach. Destin survived a glancing blow from Hurricane Earl. Local docks suffered the most from the storm's high surf. It will take just a little work to get the popular area back in gear for the Labor Day weekend crowd. So good to see those kind of scenes in Destin, especially if that's your spot to go for the weekend. The only thing that may hinder you getting there is if you were, say, leaving today. It's certainly the heavy rain at the moment that's the big concern with what's left of Earl here. You can see still a very wrapped up area of low pressure. Satellite picture shows the clouds here all across the state of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, now over Virginia as well. But the sun is back in Florida and the showers and thunder showers are diminishing. Alabama, you're in good shape as well. So again, this is our final advisory on Tropical Storm Earl. There's maybe just a very slim chance that it could cross over all of this land, reemerge over the warm Gulf Stream waters, and redevelop some. But we'll put that on the back burner and continue to think that Tropical Storm Earl is going to continue to diminish. That's the most likely scenario. Winds are down to 45 miles per hour. Of course, it was a hurricane when it made landfall overnight last night, very early hours of this morning, and has continued to diminish, but very gradually. So there still could be some strong wind gusts in here. It's moving northeast at 20 miles per hour, and at that rate, it should reveal nicer weather in places like Georgia probably by tomorrow. So Florida, you're looking better today, but not after. But not without seeing some problems. We had as much as a foot of rain, as you can see here. Look at Panama City, Florida. Apalachicola has had 9 inches, Tallahassee 5.5, and from Warner Robins to Macon, we've been updating these totals because, of course, you're still getting the rain. This is a Doppler estimate of the precipitation that's fallen just since 8 o'clock this morning from Macon up to the south suburbs of Atlanta. We've had some heavy rain. North side of Atlanta, almost no rain at all, maybe none completely. Over toward Myrtle Beach, where you see the darker greens and the yellows in here, we're talking 2 or 3 inches of rain. And as we start getting that heavier rain up into North Carolina, we may see more flooding problems. Remember, it was only a week ago that we had a foot of rain from Hurricane Bonnie. So more rain is not necessary at all here, not welcome. We also have the threat of severe weather, as is typical when you have a landfalling hurricane. Now, again, down to tropical storm status. But we may see some tornadoes. We've only had a few reports. One earlier in Florida, and that was in Citrus County, a confirmed touchdown. Looks quiet around Tampa right now, just a couple of passing showers. But over here in Brevard County, we still have a severe thunderstorm warning, and we've had some recent reports of wind damage. So we may not have a watch here, but expect these thunderstorms to produce the gusty winds and the heavy rain that could cause some problems. Don't forget, always a threat with lightning with thunderstorms, especially in Florida. Farther to the north, the Georgia coast is clearing out. Savannah's had some strong wind gusts today. It's still no doubt breezy. The stronger thunderstorms are from Charleston, coming into the Myrtle Beach area and up through Wilmington, while inland sections, it's the heavy rain. It is not that heavy yet, but it's starting to increase here in southern sections of North Carolina. Through the day tomorrow, we think you'll continue to see heavy rain. That no doubt will be a problem. We also have Tropical Storm Isis, also the final advisory on this one. 50-mile-per-hour winds. It's moving northeast now at 25 miles per hour. So that still leaves us a question as to who's going to get the moisture from this. And we've seen a little bit in the way of showers in the southwest. We'll probably see more in the next couple of days, but we'll talk about that with your forecast in a moment. Mike?
Well, you're enjoying a very pleasant afternoon into the northeast, but in the plains in Texas, it's just hot again. Let's look at what's happening around the country, and we're seeing a pretty quiet weather day. Besides Isis and Earl, we're seeing some nice weather and some warm temperatures into the northeast. We're seeing a few showers behind our frontal boundary that's into the region. Clouds into portions of the northeast and clear skies too. And with those clouds, a couple of showers into New York State, along Lake Erie or Lake Ontario too. Light showers into northern New York, but nothing too significant right now. Checking out the temperatures into the northeast, they're not too bad on this Thursday. And first, a close look at the showers. Our light showers towards Syracuse and along the New York State Thruway. Temperatures, we're at 71 in Boston, 77 in New York City, and 82 in Washington, D.C. The Midwest, seeing lots of clear skies, a few clouds, and we've had showers around Chicago and up towards Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, but still light activity, nothing too significant. And there are showers around Chicagoland and a couple of sprinkles pushing off from Sault Ste. Marie into Lake Huron. Temperatures 89 at St. Louis, 88 at Kansas City, 73 at Green Bay. Into the southeast, cooler in Atlanta with clouds at 71, while further towards the west, 101 in Dallas, 102 in Oklahoma City. Clouds influencing some of the weather into the southwest. The temperatures 87 in San Diego, and we're at 97 in Phoenix. Now look at your forecast. Here's Jill.
All right, thanks, Mike. And it looks like, although things may be bad now, they'll be better for your holiday weekend. So don't cancel your plans, even though you may see the remnants of Tropical Storm Earl coming your way in places like the Outer Banks of North Carolina, Myrtle Beach, where it is storming right now, and even Florida, where we have showers and thunder showers gradually diminishing. Because notice this. By Friday morning, it's still in North Carolina. This could mean more problems with flooding because the grounds are basically saturated from last week's tropical rains. But this should all be moving out by Saturday. It's getting there Friday evening where you may still be encountering some of that heavy rain. We'll keep you up to date on that, but definitely looks like Saturday and Sunday, Monday, the official weekend, the final of the weekend of the summer, is going to be a good one. So that's good news. Southwest, that rain will start to increase, we think, somewhat. We may see a ½ inch to an inch, some heavy downpours that could cause some minor flooding. That, of course, is from Tropical Storm Isis. So we have a tropical storm on both coasts, and in between, hot weather. I guess the final unofficial weekend of summer ought to be hot, right?
Yes, it should. Well, Earl is now a tropical storm, but still packing enough power to make roads wet.
And that means it may affect your travel, so stay with us. Travel-Wise is next.
This program was sponsored by GMC. See your local dealer today.
Sports cars are great if you're into leather and chrome. But let's hope you're not into wood. Presenting Sonoma by GMC. Vortec power and a choice of 4 different tuned suspensions to make sure you never get bored. Sonoma by GMC, where sports car meets pickup. Now get Sonoma with 0.9% APR financing or $2,000 cash back on all 98 models during the GMC Summer Sell Down at your GMC dealer today.
You're about to be sued by 26 people. Allstate defends over 50,000 people every year. Who's your insurance company?
Landfill last night, now it's sitting up here right on the Georgia-South Carolina border here. You can see it in the long loop, and there's still some very strong winds associated with it right along the coast here. There have been gale warnings hoisted basically from Savannah all the way up to Cape Hatteras, and we'll show you that frame here in a little while. But right now in the Gulf of Mexico, it's still unsettled. Waves are pretty high out there. Still some strong winds here along the Florida Panhandle on the west side of the Florida Panhandle, and a trough of low pressure out in here associated with some thunderstorms there. So we need to be careful out there. If you're a mariner, make sure you know what you're getting into before you go out there. Close-up loop of the ex-Earl. No more tropical system. It's declared extratropical. And now Washington will monitor that, and the local forecast offices along the coast will issue the gale warnings associated with it as it moves north. Looks like it's weakening slowly, but moving very quickly to the north, and it'll continue on that general track up to the northeast the next 24 hours. We can see a lot of rainfall associated with it, and because it's becoming extratropical, we have the wind coming in off the coast out of the south, and the winds aloft out of the southwest. That produces a very strong wind shear with height. and that's why we have some severe weather associated with some of these thunderstorms along the coast, and I'll show you the tornado watch in just a second. Rainfall total so far from the system over the Georgia, and some of the strong gusty winds we've seen this afternoon along the coast, gusting as high as almost 50 miles per hour. So it's not a situation where you'd want to be in a small craft out there. Now you can see here's the remnants, I should say, of Danielle. Now it's actually an extratropical system, still very tightly wound, and some fairly strong winds on the south side of it, but heading very rapidly toward Europe, and the Hurricane Center has written its last advisory on Danielle. Now as we go off around the tropical Atlantic basin and see what we're looking at, a tropical system, at least relative to the Hurricane Center. They're not writing advisories on it anymore. It's sitting over land here over Mexico, being pretty much disturbed very rapidly by the Sierra Madre Mountains, but still producing some rain and light showers over the Southern California area, deserts out toward Daggett and Needles there. And keep in mind, some of these could become a little bit heavier later in the day with the surface heating. The rest of the tropical Pacific, really not too much going on there. A lot of thunderstorm activity, but nothing organizing at this time. Let's get back to Rich and see what he's got going on across the country now.
A large part of the West, even the potential for